Jenkins is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Doar, you talked extensively about the horrific loss in U.S. ag exports to Colombia because of our failure to pass this trade agreement. We've fallen from 71% to 27% in market share for Colombia imports of key ag products just since 2008. So looking ahead, first of all, what happens to our market share in wheat, for example, if we don't ratify this agreement and Canada's agreement goes into force on July 1st as expected? And secondly, what happens if we are able to implement the trade agreement? Will the U.S. market share jump right back to where it was, or how long would that be expected to take? And then finally, is there any difference between getting it passed by July 1st and, say, getting it passed by the end of the year?
Well, certainly, I think the numbers on the Canadian FTA versus the pending FTA with the U.S. are well known. And although the Colombians clearly prefer the U.S. quality wheat, markets dictate, and as a result of the price differentials, it's clear that we're losing market share to Canada and would continue, I would presume, unless there are some other extraordinary events, to do so as well. However, if you look at timelines for successful conclusion of these agreements, there are differing harvest periods in both hemispheres. And, for example, in the case of corn, if an FTA were concluded earlier than later, when there is a period of time in which there are no supplies available from the southern hemisphere, it gives U.S. producers an opportunity to get back into that market. And based on the relationships, the historical relationships that we've had, it's clearly a large market, one that we anticipate could be as much as 2 million tons of corn. And in today's environment, that could be anywhere from $3.5 to $4 billion worth of business, as opposed to what we're seeing this year at about $118 million. So obviously timing is of the essence, and when these things are delayed, what you end up with is development of market relationships with other suppliers that once you're able to get back in the market, you have to displace, and that's always more difficult.
So how long does it take, if they were signed, for us to regain our market share? Do you have any idea?
Well, in the case of corn, which is something, in sorghum DDGs, which I'm more familiar with than wheat, we're fairly comfortable that if there was a successful conclusion to the agreements, we would be able to re-engage our customers and begin to recapture those markets, because there are innate advantages, logistical advantages, and the ability and the quality systems and the way in which we deal with our customers, we think would make us a preferred supplier, and we believe we could reestablish those relationships. The longer we go, because of price differentials, it will be more difficult.
Okay, well, there's some urgency among, I think, Kansas producers that if we delay this beyond the summer, that we will miss an entire year based on the growing season and the buying. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, and that's what I was alluding to, because if you have a market coming, or if you have a crop coming on stream in the next 2 to 3 months, and you're in a position to capture that market, to delay it for a longer period of time gets you into the following year, sets up your competitor to capture the market, and clearly you've been displaced for at least another period of time that will make it quite difficult to recapture.
So if we want to begin to replace and recapture our percentage of the market, we really need to get this ratified within the next few weeks as opposed to the next few months.
It's clear that as a market developer, and I want to make sure that this is clear, we're not lobbying this issue, but we clearly understand what the timing issues are relative to when crops are produced and when markets are available. And the longer these sorts of things are in an abeyance state, the more difficult it is to capture those markets, and that's very obvious.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Dorr. Mr. Chairman, I would yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General McCaffrey, it's a delight to have you here. My 1st Battalion commander is your classmate from the military academy, and my best friend at Fort Bragg was your IG in the 24th Division in Desert Storm. So it's great to have an opportunity to reconnect in a less formal environment than the one you ran as a